Welcome back to Eat Sleep Boxing Repeats YouTube channel. Delighted to be joined by Paul for another boxing betting tip show. Paul, I think before we get started this week, I know you're going to have to do a bit of gloating again. Another brilliant tip from you last week that I profited from. So thank you very much. Won a decent amount of money. Gervonta Davis, rounds 5 to 6. Was it 7 to 2? Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you very much for that. But yeah, I'll let you take a minute just to take some praise for that one.
Yeah, no, thanks, Eliot. Yeah, I did always think it was going to end. I think we kind of alluded to it last week as well. I never thought he was going to blow away Romero. Just with the size and the fact that there had been a bit of needle between the pair, like Romero really did want to win, and Romero did start actually quite well. But I always thought that just the class would tell, and like we've seen so many times in Gervonta Davis' career, that he's just, I mean, he's not just a puncher, but he unlike most of his rivals in the lightweight division, or he has that punch that you know, if it isn't going his way, that he always has that equalizer. So yeah, I did think he was always going to get it. So yeah, 5 to 6. I was pleased with that.
Good stuff. Yeah, well, yeah, fantastic tip, and yeah, he's hoping for many more. Get right into it this week. I know you've got 4 bets four tips to share. I've got 2. We will start with yourself. What's your first tip for us, Paul?
Yeah, so I'll go with the main event on Saturday night in Cardiff. Obviously between Joe Cordina was challenging for his first world title in his 15th fight. I remember him saying a year or so back that he wanted to win a world title within 15 fights. So if he does it, then he's achieved that goal as well. And yeah, he's fighting Kenichi Ogawa, and it's a really, really tough fight to call. I think that the bookies kind of have it slightly in favor of Cordina, but I don't know whether that's just because the British betting companies and stuff don't know a huge lot about Ogawa, and they do with Cordina, and they're just taking the risk that Cordina is that level. And you know what? I think that I'm going to go with Cordina. I think this is his coming out party. Well, in January when we were doing all those videos about who we think could be Britain's next world champion and all this here, I said that I think Joe Cordina would become the next world champion, or become a world champion in 2022. So yeah, I'm going to stick with my guns and hope that's right. And you can get him to win a decision at 10 to 11. So that's by any form of decision. I don't see him stopping Ogawa. If anything, if there was going to be a stoppage, I would potentially see it being the other way around, an Ogawa stoppage. As of yet, they haven't released odds, for unanimous decision, split decision, or whatever. But I would back a unanimous decision. I think that Joe Cordina will be switched on for all 12 rounds, and I think a unanimous decision is likely. And I could imagine if just the win by decision is 10 to 11, I could imagine that unanimous could be 6 to 4, 7 to 4, potentially something like that. So I think there's some good value there.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a tricky one, and I do think it's kind of known that bookies do write foreigners off when they come to this country, but they're just, a lot of the time, they're just automatically seen as the underdog. But at the same time, it's always interesting to look at the odds for the Brit as well, because it's just interesting. So obviously people want the Brit to win. Some people will bet on the Brit to win just because they're British. That's just kind of where their heart is rather than their head. But yeah, no, it's interesting though. I mean, I personally finding it hard to predict, to be honest. So I'm really struggling with that one. I wouldn't be able to offer anyone any advice, but yeah, it's a really tricky one. Cool. I will offer my first tip of the day. Selfa Barrett against Farouk Korbanov, who obviously is a former opponent of Joe Cordina. I think Selfa Barrett's a good fighter. I think he's improved since that controversial win against Kiko Martinez a couple of years ago. However, I think Korbanov's a very good fighter as well, and I think this is a 50-50 fight. Korbanov just to win the fight is 9 to 2, which, as we were discussing off the call, sometimes betting it's just about value, and I think 9 to 2 for Korbanov to win I think it's a good fight. He gave Cordina a good run for his money. I question whether Barrett's beaten anyone who would beat Corbinov. So yeah, that's it really. I'm happy to be proved wrong. I hope Selfa Barrett does the trick, but that's kind of what that's my first tip of the day.
So this is really funny. I wasn't expecting this at all, but being 100% serious, Corbinov is one of my 4 as well. You mentioned 9-2 there. I think on another betting outlet, have a look around for the best odds. I've seen ones of 5-1. So yeah, definitely for a fight that it's again. Yes, I want Selfa Barrett to win, and could he win? Absolutely. But has he had that win where you think, well, yeah, he's looked really good here? You mentioned on his resume a Kiko Martinez win, and even if you do look at the scorecards, it does look like it was relatively easy, but we all know that wasn't the case. It was a very close fight. Quite a lot of people had Kiko Martinez winning that, and then I just kind of look at Corbinov and his fight against Cordina, and he made Cordina look. He made it really scrappy. He didn't let Cordina work like he normally does. And I know it was years and years and years ago, but the loss in Selfa Barrett's careers on his resume is to Ronnie Clark. And I'm not comparing Corbinov to Ronnie Clark, but Clark on that night made it ugly, made it his fight, and beat Barrett. And I think if Corbinov does that, he'll be able to do the same.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I just think, I feel like if you look at Corbinov's got 3 losses, all by point decisions, and they've all been close, and they've all been to good European or higher level fighters. So it's a tricky one. I just think, and just to reiterate, I don't think either of us are saying that we think Corbinov's definitely going to win. I just think that the value of that is a good example, again, of a foreigner coming over to the UK and being written off a little bit.
Yeah. One more thing you do mention there about the names, like he's lost to Akhmadaliev, who a lot of people would have. Oh, sorry, I'm thinking of someone else, aren't I? Don't matter.
Oh, good. He's lost to obviously Cordina, and he's lost for the European title twice. So yeah, I think he's a good fighter. I think it's just going to be very interesting how it palms out on Saturday night. Cool. So I think we've done 2 of yours now, right? We've done 1 of mine. We'll go back to you again for your 3rd tip, Paul.
The one that I was just getting confused at there because I've written it down beside was I'm talking about the fight on American shores between Stephen Fulton and Danny Roman this weekend. Again, really similar to what we've just said there about the Corbinov and Barrett fight. A fight that if I hadn't looked at odds, I would say, yeah, Fulton will be the favourite, but it'll be relatively close. You look at Danny Roman and his loss to Akhmadaliev, and you look at Akhmadaliev, and he's a top level fighter. He's one of the best in the division, along with Fulton and along with Roman. But Roman just to win, you can get it 7-2, and I think that that's far too wide for a fight like this. I think that Fulton, he has looked like the dog's balls in recent times. I think he does. He has been very, very good. But Roman's. I think it was a split with Akhmadaliev or something along those lines. Are very close anyway. So I don't see this fight as one-sided as the bookies see it. I think there's a question mark over the amount of power Fulton carries as well. I don't think Roman will be phased at all. So I think that this fight is definitely closer than the bookmakers make it out to be. And yeah, so I would, if I was going to back something, I would just say Roman to win at 7-2. But I wouldn't see him stopping Fulton either. So if you wanted him to back just to win on points by unanimous decision, split decision, majority decision, whatever way to win on points, it's 7-1. So I think, again, like what you said about the Barrett fight, I probably do expect Fulton to win, but for the pure value here, I think that it's worth backing Danny Roman.
Yeah, I think that when you look at experience and quality of opposition been in with, no, I think that's a good shout. Again, we'll just go back to talking about value, and those are really good odds. Daniel Roman is former world champion. I don't think he's kind of had I think he's still looked good in recent years. I wouldn't say he's necessarily past his best. And yeah, Fulton's his last fight against Brendan Figueroa was very close. And then apart from that, I just don't think he's fought names. He's clearly fought good fighters, but he's not fought like names that perhaps a lot of fans are familiar with. Whereas with Daniel Roman, he has fought a couple of names. So yeah, I'll kind of out of all the tips we've gone through so far, that's probably my favorite, to be honest. That's probably the one I would lean if I had to pick one to put money on myself. I'd probably lean towards the most. Cool. Final one from me. Mine is focusing on the main event of the weekend, which is Kambosos Haney. I'm not sure if your final tip is as well. Yeah, I had a funny feeling. I feel like we've spoken about underdogs a lot this week. My actual prediction for the fight, I think Kambosos could do it on a very close points decision. I think if you consider Haney, very good fighter, but the whole thing about his dad not being there, Ben Davison not being there, traveling to Australia, it's not ideal preparation. And I feel like Kambosos is putting in front of his own people. It's a big occasion for him. He's absolutely desperate to win. So I think Kambosos at 9-4 to win by decision. I think, that's my kind of tip of the week. And yeah, I quite like that, to be honest. I don't think it's too bad at all. I think it will be close. Haney's a top fighter. But I just think that, I think that Kambosos could just nick it on the scorecards. But we will see. I think it's going to be a great fight.
No, very interesting. Again, it is a fight where I do disagree. I'll come on to my tip soon. I think Haney will win, but I can't look at you and say, oh no, there's no chance Kambosos wins the fight, because you look at you look at the last fight. All you have to do is really see, even if you don't look at many of Kambosos' other fights, like even if you ignore the Lee Selby fight and you just look at like the Teofimo Lopez fight, he was a huge underdog in that fight, especially after Lopez just beaten Lomachenko. So yeah, no, fair enough. I don't think you can really write him off. However, I'm going to disagree, because why not? Well, one of us can brag next week then. But yeah, no, I think, although I hear what you're saying about Kambosos, I think that the whole fighting in front of your home stadium, home crowd can work one of two ways. I do think it will G him up, and and I think that it will help him in ways. And you hate to say it as well, but he's probably already 2 rounds up before the first punch has been thrown. But I just think that Devin Haney, although some people have said they don't really talk about him as one of the best in the lightweight division, they talk about people like Gervonta Davis being better. They still mention about Teofimo Lopez being better and Lomachenko. I think that Devin Haney has kind of done what he's had to do in his fights previous. He beat Jojo Dan, he beat Jorge Linares, and fights that he was the favorite in. But they're still tough fights, and I just think that I don't know why. I wish I could come out and tell you 20 stats as to why he's going to win, but I just got a feeling that Devin Haney will get the job done. And again, I don't see it being a stoppage. I could maybe see a knockdown in Haney's favour. I really could, but I don't see him stopping George Kambosos Jr. I'm gonna go completely the other way and say Haney points decision, which is around evens. I think you can. Okay. It was 21-20 the other day when I was looking. I think it's just shorter than evens now. But again, like I mentioned for the Cordina one, I think that it could be unanimous in favour of Haney. I think, although it's in Australia and I think it might be close enough, some of the rounds, something's just telling me that Devin Haney's boxing ability is better than George Kambosos' by 5-10-fold, and I think that he could win unanimously and become the undisputed lightweight champion.
Yeah, good stuff. Good way to round things off. It's been like the week of not necessarily the underdogs, but there's a lot of if certain bets starts to come in, there's a lot of money to be won there. So I'm hoping at least one comes true. Okay, cool. So I think that I imagine if we kind of calculate the odds, they're going to be quite wide, but we're going to do it anyway. With me, Korbanov to beat Silver Barrett on just to win the fight 9-2, and Kambosos to win the fight against Devon Haney via points decision, £10 returns you £179. So nice little double there. We'll be doing it myself, and we'll see if it comes off, and I will hand over to you to give us the results of your quadruple, which I think will be quite some big numbers there.
So I haven't even put it in a quadruple. I put it in a treble. I've left out the Danny Roman one.
Okay.
However, I mean it'll on the treble of Cordina to win on points, Haney to win on points, and Corbinov just to win is around 22 to 1. So £10 returns you 230.
Nice.
But again, like you mentioned there, I've really sold myself, and you sold me on the Daniel Roman to win now as well. So if you added that in at 7 to 2, you're probably talking for your quadruple nearly over 100 to 1, roughly, I reckon. So definitely money to be made, whatever market you're looking at this weekend, I think.
Yeah, lots going on. But yeah, interested to see. I always look forward to the fights just a little bit more after doing this show. Cool. All right, thanks, Paul. Appreciate your tips as always. We'll see if there's anything to gloat about next week. But as always, we'll be back for another show next week, and there's lots more to discuss then as well.
Yep. Cheers, all the best.